how much fun was it starting a recruiting company when nobody was hiring?
Oh, it was loads of fun. A lot of crying. It was a really scary thing, and it was honestly the best thing. I say this to everybody. If you can start a company in a down market and you can make it, you can do anything.
Sarah Englade, founder of Monarch Talent Solutions, a boutique executive search firm. With nearly a decade of experience and over 2,800 successful placements, she's transforming recruitment in Houston and has been featured in Forbes and Houston's 40 Under 40 nominees.
So when I finally got to work in Houston, there was no jobs. There was nothing for me to do. So they were kind enough to allow me to continue on with them, but I was laid off in September of 2020. I'll be honest with you, my circle of people, of friends, has become smaller and smaller and smaller the more success I've gotten, which is, again, normal. What I went through a period of thinking was during that time of growth, I was like, wow, this is really lonely. I went through that, but I changed my mindset around that very recently to what's really lonely is actually surrounding yourself or being surrounded by the wrong people.
How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you back to The Way of the Wolf. Our guest today is a wonderful woman named Sarah Englade with Monarch Talent Solutions. We have started already talking about the state of the job market, talent attraction, retention, all sorts of things in this arena. And we're going to dive deep into this topic, talking about career transitions, recruiting, all things in that space. Sarah, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited about this.
I am too. This is, oh God, it's taken a few months for our schedules to get lined up, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has.
Tell me a little bit about what you do.
So I'm a headhunter. I'm an executive headhunter. I specialize in accounting, finance, HR, direct hire, and I specifically work in Houston, Texas. So I've done this for 12 years. I've been through a lot of different markets. I even started my career in actually temp staffing. So I had experience in there and kind of got to see kind of like the waves of that too. So that is what I do every single day. I kind of work more in like that director, senior, C-level space on a daily basis.
Whenever you were doing the temp staffing, was that at Robert Half?
It was.
Okay. How long were you there?
6.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you left there to go where?
I went to Vaco.
Okay.
So I ended up leaving Robert Half, went to Vaco, and they were two totally different companies. So I got the experience of working with a very large firm with a very, very solid foundation. They had the best training. They knew they were the oldest and largest firm in the world. Mm-hmm. And then I went to a private company that didn't have as many, I guess, we'll just say that it was different there. Yeah, we'll say that. They did have solid core values. They just had way different ideas around foundation.
Okay. All right. And how long were you there?
I was there until the pandemic hit. So I was actually there for about 16 months. Yeah. So
did you leave before or immediately after the pandemic hit?
Well, so the pandemic hit. So the story goes is I left Robert Half. I had a non-compete. So I could actually not work in Houston, Texas for 12 months. And so, yeah, so I had to find a job with a company that would create a position that would allow me to continue to work. And Vaco did that. They created a position for me, sending me to Memphis, Tennessee. So I actually worked for the first 6 months of my non-compete in Memphis. The last 6 months, I was designated to Dallas. But the pandemic hit in March or April of 2020. And that was exactly when my non-compete was over. Yeah. So when I finally got to work in Houston, there was no jobs. There was nothing for me to do. So they were kind enough to allow me to continue on with them. But I was laid off in September of 2020.
Okay.
So from September of 2020, that day I got laid off, I actually had a job interview with another huge global firm. And it was in that interview that I realized, I don't think I want to go back to agency. And that's really what started the conversation with me and my husband about, I think I can do this on my own. Actually, I know I can. Do you believe in me? He's like, yeah. So next step was Google, how do you start a company? That's literally what I did next. And then I went from there to lobbying. I went to my in-laws, my parents, my grandma. I said, would you invest in me? And they did. And that's where Monarch started. Monarch actually launched October of 2020.
There is an interesting trend of guests that we've had on the show that launched their business in and all around the pandemic. It is wild.
I know.
What that point in history did to the world.
I know. Isn't it crazy?
It is. So tell me, how much fun was it starting a recruiting company when nobody was hiring?
Oh, it was loads of fun. A lot of crying. I mean, that's the truth.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. It was a really scary thing. And it was honestly the best thing. I say this to everybody. If you can start a company in a down market and you can make it, you can do anything. So like right now, I've had a lot of people ask me, for recruiters coming in 2024, what's your advice to them? Like, don't quit. Because if you can get through 2024, you can really do anything in this field. So it was a really, really tough start to Monarch. It really was. I also came into running a recruiting company with no business development experience. I was an inside recruiter. So my experience was with candidates and job seekers. It wasn't with like whining and dining clients. I had to learn that. So not only were there no jobs, now I'm having to get out of my comfort zone. I'm an introvert. So get out of my comfort zone, start making intros. And this is all virtual at that time. And behind, a computer, we weren't doing anything like in person at that time. So I had to learn that. And then from there, it took me 6 months actually to land my first client. So for 6 months, I did a lot of honestly, it was probably like 12 to 16 hour days, 7 days a week. I worked around the clock until I landed that client, and the clients haven't stopped since.
What do you think has contributed in the most significant and meaningful way to your success since that first client?
Honestly, my unwillingness to quit. I hold myself to a very, very high standard. So, and I expect that out of my clients. So with me, I get to pick my clients. And so I say no a lot to be able to say yes to the right people that I want to partner with. We have core values, and we want to align with companies that obviously treat their employees very well, believe in mentoring and developing their own staff, but also value recruiters and the hard work that we put in for them. We act as an extension to them. So I think that the relationship building, us really truly acting as a member of their team, and them actually like really trusting us, that we're giving them the right information, not pushing them, and we're acting like, truly like a friend. Honestly, that's probably been the biggest piece, is that we connect and their trust is there. So yeah.
The thing that I appreciate and value the most out of what you just shared is your willingness to say no to the wrong people, to free up capacity, to then say yes to more of the right people. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially those that are just starting out, they're afraid to do that. And let's be clear, in the beginning, you just need two things, a pulse and a credit card. Really, you only need one of those, quite frankly, to get started. But as you start getting more flow through the system, getting more customers in the door and supporting them, it is important to understand there are good customers and there are not good customers. And you have to get comfortable turning away that revenue to open up doors for more of the right customers that you want to do business with, that your team wants to do business with.
That's right. That's right. I think at the very beginning, I mean, when I started my company, and to your point too, during the pandemic, a lot of even my peers went and started their own firms. So we did this separately, but I probably knew 4 other people that started firms, whether it was in Florida, Ohio, California, and they didn't do it the way that I did it. And they're no longer working for themselves. They had to go back into corporate or back into agency. And each one of them has said, Sarah, the reason why we believe that you're successful and we're not is that you were willing to walk away from so much business to be able to focus on the right business. And I also niched down immediately. So that was a very, very important thing. I believe in there's riches and niches, and I never veered. I knew my niche was going to be accounting, finance, and HR, and I have never, ever, ever veered from that.
The riches are in the niches.
Yeah, it's true.
It is. It is very true. And an interesting thing that I've also started to better understand, when you have that mindset and then layer in social media and how the algorithms push people into certain buckets, lean into that niche. If you come in and I create comedy content one day, fitness the next, business the next, and then cars the next, the algorithm doesn't know what to do with you.
Right, they don't.
So lean into something that you're good at. Lean into that thing that you are the most passionate about. That's going to help increase your reach, again, to the right type of target audience, which could hopefully turn into customers in the future.
100%. Yep, you got it.
Okay, there's so much to unpack here. All right, whenever you mention that your peers are no longer doing their own thing, was there a theme that you noticed that differentiated you? I mean, above and beyond your just grit and tenacity and determination, was there a theme that you noticed of things that they weren't doing that you were willing to do?
Yeah, I was sticking to my guns. I'm also super disciplined. So I set up metrics for myself. I held myself accountable to those. I did not get distracted easily or get seduced by success. A lot of the folks I noticed, they would get very emotional too. So you can't make decisions for your business, important ones, when you're in a valley and you're emotional. You can't do it. And when you're a new entrepreneur, you're scared. There's a lot of times I still wake up scared. You know, if I didn't feel this, I think that I would probably be doing something wrong. I work for myself. I need every single day for me to put in a lot of effort for this to work. I have to compound my activity. And what I noticed with a lot of these, and I don't want to say anything bad about them, and I won't. I still respect a lot of these folks, but we've talked about this candidly, individually, and I think that the difference is that I stuck to my guns. I knew what my mission was. I was very mission driven the whole time. I did not get distracted by anything else, and I'm also not lazy. So every single day I also worked on myself too, you know, with getting coaches and making sure I had the right mentorship, surrounding myself with the people that were in the business longer than me, doing it better than me, to learn from them. So I really did do a lot of investing in myself too during that time.
One of the things that I've come to observe is a lot of times when people leave their high-paying corporate job to go start a business, they have this mindset of, oh, I'm going to start a business and be a millionaire. I know. But they miscalculate all of the things that they still have to learn: sales, lead generation, building that pipeline, marketing, branding, all of those things. It takes time to develop skills in that arena. And yes, there are things you can do to accelerate that timeline. It's important to understand that for the first year or few years, you are going to make significantly less money. You are going to be absolutely broke. And I think that far too many people are afraid to take one or multiple steps back financially, with the hopes that maybe, possibly, someday in the future, I might make even more money. Right. But that speaks to your level of dedication and determination and grit. That is ultimately what it takes when you're a newly minted entrepreneur. There can be no plan B.
No, there isn't.
There's plan A, and then
it.
plan A2, and then plan A1.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
I have nothing else to fall back on. When you go into business for yourself, you have to be 100% obsessed with what you're doing. It's your obsession. It's your life. You know, the people that work for me, I can't expect them to feel the same kind of pressure that I feel. It's not their business. They don't have the same passion or goals, right? But it's up to me to be able to come to the table and show up every single day with it, because I can't quit. I'm never going back to agency. I'm never going to work for someone else ever again. So I have to make this work no matter what. And I also think too, you know, thanks to social media, we have a lot of these fake entrepreneurs that are always posted up, you know, up against, you know, Lamborghinis on their, you know, phone, pretending to be taking a business call, you know, doing whatever. It's so sad to see it. But a lot of people, you know, are easily convinced that's the way it is. You know, you post up, you know, a picture on Instagram and you're supposed to make money, but content, you know, unfortunately, you know, you can make a bunch of content. And like, even for me, I'm big on content, but likes and shares doesn't pay the credit card bill. So it helps with brand recognition. It helps for people to get familiar with your face, your name, your company name, to build credibility and trust. But that takes time and it takes years.
It does. I want to get on content in just a moment. But before we do, I want to talk about the importance of surrounding yourself with excellence and good people. As we move through the seasons of our lives, we inevitably develop attachments to certain friends, family, colleagues, coworkers. Not all of those attachments are healthy attachments. And it doesn't matter if somebody's been friends for 2 decades, we have to constantly audit our circle. That is not an easy thing to do. And I'm not saying, okay, well, Jason over here, he's dragging me down. I'm just going to cut him off and disown him and block him. No. You don't have to be that severe in it, but it is important that you start to let go of some of those people that are dragging you down. It doesn't matter how strong of an emotional attachment you have to that person. And the thing that I have found that has been most helpful for me is identifying people that whenever I have a conversation with them and I walk away just bursting with ideas and thoughts and excitement, figure out a way to surround yourself with those people.
Right.
Who are those people in your life?
I mean, so I really believe in mentorship. And so for me, I'm going to be honest with you, I got really blessed. My mother-in-law is a pretty big inspiration for me. Like, her work ethic is unmatched. She's incredibly successful. I'm pretty much obsessed with the way she runs her business. So I have a really great example at home, really. But the people that I talk to a lot, even in my industry, there's a guy named Brent Orsuga out of Scottsdale. I met him through LinkedIn. When I first started my company in 2020, I don't know how the algorithm got us in touch, but he was commenting on my content. And then we ended up talking about how we're in the same industry, and he taught me so much about the business, things that I, had questions about that in the very beginning. I was going to local people here in Houston. I was literally reaching out to other people local in Houston trying to find mentors during that time. And I was shot down quite a bit. And, I'd reach out and be like, hey, we're in the same industry and I'm just starting out. I would love to pick your brain, whether Zoom or coffee, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They would read the message and then like a day or two later write, sure, period. I'm just like, you know what? Never mind. So I really had to seek out my mentors. Brent Orsuga is a huge one for me. I'm actually part of a program called Arate Syndicate. So I get coaching and training from Andy Frisella and Ed Milet. I have a mental toughness coach named Ben Newman, who we actually meet twice a week. And that's been super impactful. Those people are high performers. So they're mentally very strong, but they're also very honest about the times that they're not. And those are the people that I actually gain the most, I guess, I get the most out of, because it's honest, because that's how you feel as an entrepreneur. You feel like moments you're on top of the world. You feel great. You feel mentally really tough. And then you're going to go through months where you feel like, gosh, what am I doing? Like, am I good enough for this? So being around people that are like, that's normal. Don't quit. Keep going. So those are the people that I listen to and surround myself with the most. I'll be honest with you, my circle of people, of friends has become smaller and smaller and smaller the more success I've gotten, which is, again, normal. What I went through a period of thinking was, during that time of growth, I was like, wow, this is really lonely. I went through that, but I changed my mindset around that very recently too. What's really lonely is actually surrounding yourself or being surrounded by the wrong people. That's actually more lonely than anything. So I've come a long way with that, but I do agree with you. The people that I want to surround myself with, I want them to be good people. I want them to be pushers, hustlers. I want them to care about improving, and I want to learn from them too.
The thing that's, everybody always cites that phrase, "it's lonely at the top." Mm-hmm. Fair. I can agree with that, because there are definitely lonely chapters as we ascend, whether it's in a corporate job or building your own thing. We've got the pyramid, right? As we work our way up to the top, yes, it can get lonely. What I've discovered is, as you work your way up to the top of this pyramid, it's not necessarily lonely. You just don't know who to talk to and how to engage with them, because the reality is you are part of a much larger pyramid and you have to figure out how to build and develop skills to network across and up a rung or two on the ladder. And something like Arete, I haven't done a whole lot of research on it. I'm aware of what it is, but learning how to be intentional about surrounding yourself with those others. And this bleeds into what you were just talking about, sending messages on LinkedIn and then just kind of basically blowing you off. As you are building something new, it is very lonely. It can be very lonely because you've ascended above your previous life, we'll say, but you haven't quite made it enough to be able to surround yourself with those that are above you. And you just have to grind and learn and figure out, how do I add enough value to get my foot in this room so that I can learn as much as possible from those people. And I think those are skills that we can build and develop, but you have to be willing to be uncomfortable and suck at new things for a little bit until you start to build momentum and get better.
I totally agree with that. I think a lot of people hold themselves back too because of imposter syndrome. Like they immediately go into this imposter syndrome. They think it's a bad thing, but I don't look at it like it is. I look at it like if I'm not feeling imposter syndrome, then I'm in the wrong room. Like it's time for me to level up too. And that's the thing. So I went through a period last year where I actually expressed this. I'm like, I feel a little bit lonely in this, Somebody actually at that moment, I forget who it was, it might've been one of my coaches, had said, it's not that you're lonely and you're going to stay like this forever. You just outgrew the people that you were surrounding yourself with for so long, and you're just waiting now. It's a waiting period for you to find the people that are at the level that you're at and above. So it's just this time where you're going to continue to grow and do, your reps and continue to get better for you to find those people that are finally, the people that you need to be around. So, I did have to start looking at it differently because you go through phases of this. Like, I didn't have a level of success that I had right now currently when I first started. So of course things are going to start to evolve. And if you want to bring those people with you up to a certain point, but then you also have to realize the reality of the situation is as your goals are different than other people and you're trying to level up, you can't drag people with you who aren't wanting that. That's not what they want in life. So you have a responsibility to them too, to almost like let them go for you to be able to fly.
That doesn't mean at some point in the future, they might not be at a place and you can absolutely reconnect with them. Ooh. All right, last question on startups before we transition into the world of recruiting and talent management. Oh. When you went out on your own, presumably you had a decent network already somewhat established. If you had to put a number on it, what percentage of that network supported you and in what capacity?
I got really lucky. The people that I had, they were, when it came to my business, I relied on a lot of job seekers at that time. A lot of people were out of work. And so I knew these folks from before. So I would probably say a lot of those people, the majority of them did support me. And I got really, really lucky with it. I can't necessarily say it impacted business in a revenue perspective right away because it didn't. It was a period of time where no one was hiring. So what I was doing was a lot of service work at that time with those folks. And so, for me, I was optimizing resumes. I was optimizing LinkedIn profiles. I was negotiating salaries on deals I had no part of. I didn't set them up, but these people felt more comfortable coming to me. So I was coaching them a lot on that, doing interview preps. So I still get messages from people all the time saying, thank you so much for everything that you did for me, even though I didn't place them in a job or get them in a career. But, those folks that supported me back then, I tell you right now, they're probably my biggest supporters right now, because those are the people now they're in places where we're able to partner and work together at that capacity. So, I don't know. We both leaned on each other quite a bit during the time when I first started my company. And then of course, people that I was reaching out to that I was really hoping would support me. I don't think that they did. I think that they were, some of those folks, I don't know if you've experienced this too. You go out on your own and you start, trying and you're putting yourself out there and, people will say they're clapping you, but, applauding you on and wanting you to succeed. But I think a lot of those folks are just waiting for you to fail. And, a part of my job is to make sure that they suffocate. So that's why we keep going. Yeah.
So I have experienced a little bit of that myself. I had started building a pretty substantial network, a lot of CIOs, CHROs, just due to the nature of my role and my experience. And man, I would say 40, 50% of them cheering, yeah, go follow your dream, go follow your dream. 1% maybe has supported in terms of helping us with revenue. Hey, you're struggling with this. We're going to hold a workshop on this. Yeah, it's $500. Oh, no. I mean, go follow your dream, but I'm not going to do that. That is especially challenging when you have friends that are also entrepreneurs and you've supported their businesses for a decade and spent thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And, oh, you're struggling with this. I'm going to do a workshop for that. Oh, no. Crickets chirping. Yep. And it's a tough pill to swallow. Yep. But it's all about the lens that we choose to view these things through. And my mindset, once I got over the, that stings a bit, it was, you know what? I got to get better at selling. I got to get better at showing the value that we can bring. Yeah. And an interesting thing started to occur as we've had more and more workshops. The people that attend the workshop, at the end, the feedback is, I thought this was going to be the same old boring corporate training. This was life-changing. It was exactly what I needed. And they actually start pulling us in for more work within their team, referring us to other people. But you have to view things through that lens of the eternal optimist. If not, it's going to be a rough go.
Yeah, it is. And in the field that I'm in, recruiting, we're rejected every single day. Rejection is a huge part of sales and recruiting is sales. So that's what I always tell people too. Like, you have to have thick skin to make it in this industry because you're rejected. I'm told no or ghosted 50, 100 times a day. And then I get a maybe. And then we'll get into one yes, right? And then it will bleed into another. But like, it's just full on rejection. You can't take it personal. You've got to get better at it. And that's the whole point to what you said. Whenever I'm rejected too, I don't take it as like, it's a no forever. It's a no right now. And I'm going to get better at my craft and I'm coming back and hopefully I can sell you better the next time. Yeah. So yeah, you just can't give up or quit. I don't know.
Let's pivot a little bit.
Sure.
Let's talk about the state of the job market. You work with a lot of executives. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing kind of from a macro perspective right now?
It's bad. It's bad out there. And this is the thing. I love this and I want to talk about this. I think it's super important because a lot of the content that you see out there, it paints a different picture. You'll see a lot of other recruiting firms posting up, oh, it's so hot. The market's hot. We're hiring. And that's really just to attract, candidates to apply to their ghost posts. They're not even real postings. And, companies do the same thing for that. They're pipelining. And that is that's a practice that we all do it, but there's a lot of that's in excess of fake jobs being posted to make it appear that companies are hiring and that recruiting firms are busy. We have been in and I think it's Business Insider actually is the one who came out with the coined phrase of a white collar recession. We've been in one since 2023. So, a lot of the positions paying basically anywhere from like 95,000 and above, there's not a lot of hiring going in that space. I think it actually is at the lowest it's ever been outside of the pandemic since, 2008 or 2009. And so what's happening is, in my opinion, and I've been a recruiter for 12 years. So I know how to ride these waves. We see them coming. And so in my opinion, what is going on right now is the election. It's an election year. Every election year, companies hold on to their purse strings. They don't spend money. They just can't. We have high inflation. So companies are paying a whole lot of money now, more costs than ever. They're also having to deal with the Federal Reserve, high interest rates. Companies are also responsible for the people that they currently have. They're trying to keep the people that they currently have. So, when it's very volatile in these markets, when you're talking to executives, they see it at a high level. They see what's going on in their companies. They're not quitting their jobs. So the jobs that are, what other executives are looking for, They're not out there because nobody's looking to pivot or make a move because they need the stability and they're holding tight to their job. So we need to get through the election. Normally, after an election, the market does warm up. With this election being so crazy, how warm, we don't know. We know it will pick up because companies will then understand new policies that are coming out that are going to affect their bottom line and things like that. So the plan they'll be able to put in place pretty quickly. So they will start to hire, but I'm still projecting 2025 to be harsh. Yeah.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Because of the inflation that we're seeing in the economy, because of wage inflation that we're seeing, I have started to see a trend around the middle tiers of an organization and almost an elimination of those middle tiers where you have senior leaders and then all of the individual contributors and elimination of that middle layer of management. I think that is a short-sighted decision. I understand the why behind it, but the reality is these senior leaders, in my experience, are not always the most developed leaders. And the middle tiers in the organization, those are the people that seem the most interested and hungry to learn leadership skills. It's almost like, and I'm not speaking in absolutes, but it's almost the senior leaders think, oh, I've got a C-level title. I don't need any sort of development. The managers and directors are like, yes, I want to be a better leader for my team. And when you eliminate that layer, under the name of cost cutting, all of a sudden you're doing this damage to the organization and the future of the organization that you probably won't see the repercussions of for many years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a real problem that a lot of people are hardly talking about. When they're talking about it, there's a lot of fluff involved with it. But the truth is, there's a lot of people that are really hurting. They are sharp, smart, great executives, directors, managers with superior tenure that are, being laid off, being let go, roles are being eliminated, and they're struggling to get back into the job market because finding a job right now, because again, there's not as many positions right now, and it's an employer-driven market right now. So and that was not the case. So since the pandemic, it was a candidate-driven market. So candidates were getting paid lots of money to work remote. They got used to it. They loved it. Those positions don't exist anymore. Those candidates, a lot of them were in the tech industry. They got laid off. They can't find those kinds of roles anymore. They don't exist, but they're like holding out for them. And then you've got other people that are really desperate to go back to work, but being that it's an employer-driven market, a lot of the companies are now coming down on the salary significantly, offering roles that are like 20% below market for top tier talent. That's so insulting. And so that's a big piece too that we're trying to coach our hiring managers on in the companies to let them know, like, you can't do that. Now you can, I guess, if you choose to, but you're going to attract talent that will not stay with you long term. They need a job and they're desperate. So it's a Band-Aid for them. So if you just want a Band-Aided candidate that's going to come in knowing that they're going to leave because they have headhunters and recruiters in their inbox on LinkedIn nonstop, and they're going to be pitching them positions that are at market, I mean, by all means, hire them for, 6 months to a year, but that person's not staying with your company.
Well, then you end up with this unfortunate amount of churn that you're just burning through cash because the ramp rate of their efficacy in the organization, call it 3 to 6 months before they're truly adding the value. And if you get them in the door just because they desperately need a job, but you're paying them so far under market value, they're going to keep looking.
They're never going to stop looking.
Yeah.
They're never going to stop. They won't stay long. That's the thing. It's like, tenure now, and thanks to the pandemic and thanks to TikTok, they like to pitch how job hopping is like now the cool thing. You have to job hop to be able to get to the next level. I don't exactly agree with that, to be honest with you. However, that has become the norm, which is why there's so many people, and you'll see it on resumes where people are lasting in position 6 months and leaving, and it's normal. And so that's another thing that happens when you underpay people. They're more inclined to go that route. And unfortunately for those candidates, that will come to bite them too at a certain point. You can only job hop for so long before you are no longer marketable to top tier companies. They won't invest in you. You're high risk to leave.
That's one of the things that I've definitely picked up on over the years of looking through resumes and hiring hundreds of people over the years. If I glance through and see that you stay everywhere 6 to 9 months, in the trash. I'm not even going to waste my time, quite frankly, because
what's the point?
Well, yeah, exactly. What is the point? I'm not going to just throw some extra cash at you so you can get a little bump in your style of living only to then jump again 6 months later. I would much rather see progression within the same organization. Also, I don't think it's good to ascend in an organization too rapidly. As an example, if you see an HR manager within a 6-month span of time that gets promoted to HR director, to VP, to CHRO, my immediate thought is, well, one, I don't know what exactly was going on in that organization, but there is no possible way this person can be equipped to operate at that level in such a short period of time. And the people that do end up with that rapid ascension, it seems to feed their ego. And then they walk around thinking, oh, I'm Mr. Big Shot. And they don't get anything done. And then they end up getting exited from the organization because of incompetence or whatever the reason is. So I think it's important that while it can be exciting, oh, I'm so good to be able to climb that ladder that quickly, you're doing yourself a disservice. And if you are an organization, senior leader in an organization, you are doing a disservice to that person. It doesn't matter how bad they want it. You have to have time in the seat at each level to accumulate the skills necessary to operate at that level and then prepare for the level above that.
I look at it like that too, but then I also look at it like a major red flag for the company, because if you're moving up that many steps, if you've got the ability to move that many steps up, shouldn't there have been somebody like, we'll talk HR, like coordinator, generalist, business partner, manager, then you've got like director. If you're moving up like this that quickly, all these other people that weren't there, shouldn't there have been people in the general? So that person left. So that person left. You got turnover here, turnover here, turnover there. That's how you made it. So you were able to progress because people left the company for whatever reason. What does that say about the company? So, and did you earn it? And listen, I have these conversations because I'm, again, in headhunting. I just had a conversation, this exact one, about a month ago with a candidate who on her resume is an HR manager. And when we were talking, she was like, I'm not getting anywhere with this. And I was only an HR manager for a year, but I really wasn't even an HR manager. I only got that position because somebody got fired and they moved me up and I'm not even ready for it. And I was like, well, then there we go. We need to change your resume back to business partner. It's a title change and you're going to start getting bites for business partner opportunities. And what do you know? That's what she started to get. And that's what she wanted because that's what she was qualified for. She knew she was not qualified for management.
Yeah. And then the other thing that comes to mind, even if you have that position or title, like there have been instances where I've seen somebody with that rapid ascension, and then whenever you interview them, there is no possible way they understand what's going on at that level, because each level that we operate requires a different version of ourselves. There are different skills that you have to build into your toolbox. And if I'm interviewing for a CHRO, I'm going to be looking for very different skills than an HR manager.
100%.
The CHRO needs to understand the roles, responsibilities, and hopefully how to do some of the things that the HR manager is doing. But there's bigger things that they need to be focused on.
2 different jobs, 2 different roles. Yeah. So yeah, I get it.
Let's talk a little bit about career transition coaching. This is something that I've started to have a shocking number of people reach out to me on. And it's not even one of our offerings, but it's getting to a point to where so many people are approaching me about it that I'm starting to entertain it and starting to work with a few people on that front. What I find interesting is it's about a 50-50 in terms of the people that reach out to me. Many of them are frustrated with their current employer and they need guidance on getting in the door somewhere else. They've been blasting out their resume, no progress, no hits. Others are approaching me about, you know what, I'm done with this. I want to start my own business. Those are two very different conversations that I have with people. So I very early on, what are you wanting to do? And then if they lean into starting my own business, are you sure? Yep. Because if you hate your boss, if you hate your employer, that is not the reason to start your own thing. If you are just looking to transition to another company, okay, let's talk through that. Let me see your resume. Oh God, I understand what's happening here. Let me look at your LinkedIn. Really? What is happening here? There's a lot of things that are quite frankly easy fixes. There are all sorts of recruiting firms, presumably someone like yourself, that can beef up a resume, look at actually visually appealing instead of a wall of words for 10 pages in the trash. Not even going to look at it. If I look at someone's LinkedIn and their profile photo is them with a hat and sunglasses on and a fishing pole, okay, let's make some tweaks here. Do you have a banner image? Okay, let's make some. There's a lot of easy things that people can do that help curate their online presence and their own brand. Right. Yeah. Because I think that I've been having this conversation a lot recently where there's two versions of us. We have we have Sean in the physical world, we have Sean in the virtual world. It is very easy for us to get hyper-focused on one or the other. Mm-hmm. What's unfortunate is when people start to put on a face for the virtual world. They have this great online presence. They go in for a job interview, and then the company or the hiring manager is like, "What? It's like their brain breaks." Mm-hmm. So it is important for us to focus on being intentional about building our personal brand that aligns in the real world and in the virtual world. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I mean, I think one of the biggest compliments that I get when I have a decent following now online, and I think one of the biggest compliments that I get is, "Wow, you're the same person on the internet that you are in person." I think it's very, very important that you are. And so I coach a lot on this too, with my candidates, because I'll see resumes and LinkedIn's and they look, crazy. Or there's very simple fixes that can actually get them to be more visible and have their resume opened up by a hiring manager and considered. I think that, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people, they're not used to how much has changed since the pandemic and how important it is to have the brand. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, you have a personal brand. So you have to accept that and acknowledge that. When you're job seeking, what I always tell people too is make sure your personal, like your Facebooks, your TikToks, your Instagram, make sure those things are on private while you're job seeking, because that is a whole separate life. And focus on making sure LinkedIn is the best version of you professionally without embellishing. Do not exaggerate, because that is going to be, that's happening so often right now. And it's giving a lot of hiring managers and companies complete burnout from recruiting these people that appear to be the perfect candidate, ticking all of the boxes to then get in an interview and they're clueless. They're just clueless. And so these hiring managers are like, "I'm burned out from interviewing. This is exhausting," because everyone is so desperate for a job right now that they're lying and that they're going overboard. So I would say, yeah, you need to put a lot of focus on making sure your resume is crisp, simple. Keep the resume simple, 2 pages. If you're a recent grad, it should be 1 page. Like, keep it simple. Now, listen, I get a lot of flack for this when I say the 2-page from people that have like government jobs or from people in the IT space. They feel like their resumes need to be longer. I don't speak on that. I speak on accounting and finance and HR. Our resumes need to be 2 pages. And your LinkedIn does need to be optimized. And LinkedIn is a keyword-driven platform. So you need to put the keywords in. No, you can't use it like Facebook, and you can't put up, a picture like a selfie or a pixelated, Snapchat with like a filter because you think you look cute. Like, you can't do that. You have to be taken seriously. And this is the first impression that the companies that you want to hire you, that they're seeing about you. So you really have to put the effort into making sure everything is crisp, everything is clean, and everything is honest.
The thing that I think a lot of people miss in this space in particular is that everything you just talked about in terms of optimizing your LinkedIn profile, optimizing your resume, these are actually skills that can be learned. Yes. A lot of times, oh, well, I'm not into social media. You don't have to be, but you can spend an hour learning the bare minimum. Go look at some profiles that you like and emulate that. Yeah. Don't stretch, don't lie, but figure out what is visually appealing for you. And beyond optimizing your profile, what's more important, in my opinion, is actually engaging with other people's content in a meaningful way. Yes, you have to create your own content. You don't have to release 35,000 pieces of content a year or anything like that. Make one post a day. Yep. And then comment on other people's posts a few times every single day. Not just a thumbs up. Comment in a meaningful way that adds value, because that is another beautiful way to increase reach, increase your reputation, and showcase the skills and knowledge that you have. 100%. I had a guy that I was coaching a few years ago, and he's like, I don't like doing that because they're all idiots. Okay, well, the opportunity here is for you to educate them and showcase your knowledge and your skills. Yeah.
It's so true.
It really is.
But people, I think, always they forget that your network is your net worth. And commenting on these posts might sound draining or stupid to do, but it could open up conversations on a sidebar with somebody that you weren't expecting to have, that could open up the door for you that you never expected to be opened. And it starts with having those, it starts off as a cold outreach until it's not cold, until it's warm, and until it's actually a relationship. And listen, it's a lot. It was a lot for me to learn too and feel comfortable with. I'm not naturally, like I said, I'm introverted. I had to learn these skills, and they can be taught. And that's especially if you really do want to go out and, start your own business because you think that's the best avenue. Well, you better get comfortable doing that, because it's a requirement now. You have to be utilizing these platforms. You have to be creating content. You have to make sure that people know who you are.
And I think for people that are transitioning, if you just lost your job and you're now focused on it, you are way too late to start doing this. I think it's important for people to, while they are gainfully employed, to be learning these skills, to be commenting, to be providing value along the way. When you go to networking events, connect with them on LinkedIn. Shoot them a message. Hey, it was so great speaking with you at the CHRO conference. Let's stay in touch. We'll grab a coffee at some point. Some sort of connection. Don't just walk away and ignore it. And what will happen is, as the years go by, you will start to continue to build this network of people that, when the time comes, they're a phone call away. They're a text message away. But if you get laid off, all of a sudden you're in this place of desperation, and people are going to have their walls up like, oh God, Sean just lost his job. And yeah.
Yeah. We say the same thing to candidates because, a lot of times people that I message, I'm doing an outreach to new candidates, they won't respond back because they're not looking for a job. But what I always coach on, I've made content on this, is respond to people that are in your inbox. Like, go to their LinkedIn. If they are credible and you can see that they have, a lot of good value on their page, that they're an actual real person, you might not need them right now. But when the time comes, if you do find yourself in a situation where you need to transition for whatever reason, it's a choice, it was a layoff, you were let go, whatever, you should have somebody in your phone right away that you can pull up to call. Hey, Sarah, I need a new job. Like, you already know who to call. So that's why it's so important to continuously build those relationships. So to your point, when you need them, you know exactly who to go to, and they know who you are.
Yeah. And there are some people that just aren't going to care. They're just going to push you away immediately, and that's okay. There was somebody that posted, this is probably about 6 months or so ago. He had attended a entrepreneur workshop in Vegas that I've been thinking about attending. And I reached out to him. He actually owns a technology consulting firm in another state. And I connected with him, shot him a message. I said, hey, I've been thinking about going to this course. Thank you for sharing your content. I would love a quick 15-minute conversation. Just kind of pick your brain on it and network a little bit. And he didn't accept my connection. He responded. He said, yep, it was a great workshop. I'll pass. And I thought that was my response. I was like, well, prick. I responded back. I was like, no worries at all, man. Keep crushing it. I actually had a customer that I think might have been a good fit for you guys. That's why I wanted to network, but best of luck. Keep crushing it. His response, oh, okay. Well, yeah, let's find some time. And I just never responded back to him. And it's so crazy. These people that I would have thought if you went to a workshop based on building and scaling your business, if somebody genuinely reached out with it, because I was baffled. And so it broke my brain for a little bit. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm moving on. I've got other things to focus on.
Yeah, that used to happen to me a lot. And that's exactly the reason why I'm the opposite now. When people reach out to me, other recruiters from, I don't care where they're from, if they reach out and they're like, Sarah, I listened to you. I heard you on XY podcast. I saw this. I've been following you for a couple of years. I'm thinking about going off on my own. I know this is a big ask coming from a stranger, but would you jump on Teams with me? Or can I pick your brain on a 5-minute phone call? I say yes. I make the time. Nobody helped me. Nobody was willing to help me when I started my company. And I reached out to people and they did the same thing. It was just days later or not really, I don't have the time, or they would read it and never even respond. And so that's why I go out of my way. I try to be for people what I needed back then. I really do. And so I have phone calls weekly, literally. They're awesome phone calls. Some of these people have even, they have my phone number. So they'll text me if I do something grammatically wrong on LinkedIn, and I thank them for that. They'll be like, Sarah, you made a spelling error. And I'm like, had I not taken the call, I would have been up all day. So thanks for that. But you really just never know. I really want people to succeed. That's the biggest thing, is I really want to help people. And again, going back to that feeling of nobody wanting to help me, I think it's important that when people reach out and they're out of the kind, like they're just curious. It's a curious reach out. We're not all leeches. We're not all trying to get something from you. We're trying to learn too and network, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's what LinkedIn is for. It's a professional networking platform. If you're not cool with that, then get off it. These are the kinds of relationships that we're trying to build. So
I am the absolute same way. And as I was first starting out, because I want to help people so much, I might have, I don't want to say did myself a disservice, but I would offer up 1-hour calls. And unfortunately, whenever you offer up 1-hour calls, people will just blow you up. And I still had bills to pay. I still had work. I still had coaching work that I had to do. And so I had to start better allocating my time, because everybody that reaches out and wants some guidance or support, I'm going to do everything I can to support them. And even if it's a question that I answered in a podcast, I'll say, hey, I've got this 10-minute episode just on this topic. Check it out. If you have questions, reach back out to me. And so that is another thing that I've found is hugely beneficial for having the podcast, is being able to help others just by showcasing them. And an interesting thing also occurs whenever I have those types of conversations is sometimes they'll come back to me and ask a question that I know for a fact I directly answered in the show. And at that point, it's kind of like, oh, okay, here's another one. Do a little bit of research. And so I can kind of start creating some distance there, because I only want to support people that are willing to do the work. If you can't take 10 minutes to watch an episode of something that directly answers your question, I'm not going to give you 20 minutes or half hour of my time. Do the work.
Yeah, you have to set boundaries. I've had other recruiters reach out being like, could you send me your template for your MPC, which is our most placeable candidate? I'm like, no. That takes years to craft. I'm not giving away my secrets or whatever, the way that I do it, but I'm willing to help in different ways, but I'm not willing to just give those kinds of things away. So yeah, to your point, it's like, listen, if we've already talked about it too, I've got a lot of content as well, and even like some of my close friends, like they'll come to me with questions. I'm like, do you not follow me? Like, we've talked about this 100 times, but yeah, I try to help everybody and to a certain degree. And I have to set time limits, and I let them know that too. I'm like, listen, and it's funny, I'll get from people, I didn't expect for you to even respond.
Same.
Yeah. And I'm just like, see, because they're also used to the rejection.
The thing that I appreciate about those conversations, when you take 20 minutes out of your day to support somebody, while it's only 20 minutes out of your time, it can potentially change the trajectory of their life.
Yes, can.
And it is wild. I've lost track of how many times it's occurred over the past few years now where I took a phone call with somebody. It was, 20, 30-minute phone call, something like that. And then I hear from them years later, hey, I have to say how much I appreciate the feedback that you provided me. It inspired me to do the thing that I've been holding off on for so long. And just overflowing with appreciation is the feeling that I have in that moment, especially when you're a newly minted entrepreneur and you're crying in the closet. I don't cry in the closet, to be clear. Just in my bedroom. No.
I used to cry in the shower. I still do. That's my place. So
yeah. But here's the thing. There's going to be ups and downs. And when you're starting a business and you're in that down place and you get a text message out of the blue from somebody, thank you.
That can change everything.
It can change. I mean, you've changed their life, and in the right moment, they just happen to think of you and reach out, and it gives you that extra energy that you need to power through that dark time. And so that 20 minutes of my time that I spent years ago it came back around years later to help ignite something in me, even whenever my flame was starting to dim a little bit. It's so powerful.
It's a beautiful thing. And I think too, it reminds you that everything that you are doing is working. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I get similar messages too. And I have a folder and I save them because I when that negative self-talk starts to come in, and it does, and I'm good now, I'm able to really squash it, but it still creeps in. I'm not perfect. And it's those moments I'll go back to those folders and I'll read some of the messages, and it's like, man, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's all going to work out.
It is.
Yeah.
We have gone down all sorts of different rabbit holes in this conversation. Is there anything specific that you would like to cover before we wind down?
Nothing specific outside of, job seekers that are currently struggling to find work because there's just so many of them. You're not alone. It's not you. It's a period of time and that we're in, and a lot of people are in it. I feel like a job seeker every single day of my life. My job is to find jobs and to fill them. So I know what it feels like, and it doesn't feel good. Finding a job is personal. And so if I can offer up any kind of support to people, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. You can find me at Sarah Englade on LinkedIn. You can follow the company page, Monarch Talent. I have a big following on Instagram. You can hit us up with DMs at Monarch Talent HTX. We're always there to support. We want to make sure people know that they're definitely not alone. They're not crazy. And if there's any advice that we can give to help to get their resume at the top of the pile, we're willing to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have for the show today. We will make sure that we have all of Sarah's contact information in the show notes down below, and y'all have a good one.